Welcome to my Hebrew channel, Mila Varaika. We're looking at Psalm 37, verses 32 and 33. At this point, the psalm gets back to the very well-defined acrostic structure that we've come to know already in the previous verses. Now, the one that's just before this one was an ayin, but the ayin was hidden behind a lamed, so alam, and so it was part of the acrostic, but it was a little bit hidden. But here we once again we're back to a very clear acrostic structure of our psalm. It begins with Tsade. It begins with a very interesting word, and let's take a look at that. We've seen this verb before. Now we see it again, chauffé. I believe it was probably plural the last time I looked at it, but anyway, it's chauffé. This is the Rasha intently studies, and looks at, tries to entrap, tries to find fault. And we have to understand the chauffé, the looking intently, on the basis of the last word here of the sequence, shafat. In other words, in judgments. He's looking for some kind of judgment against the Sadiq, against the righteous person. So evil one is looking for something against the Sadiq. Chauffé, by the way, is also found in Proverbs 31, the sequence of the virtuous woman, the Eshet Hayil. She also does Sophia. Sophia is looking intently to her household. All the workings of her household are something that come under her surveillance. And so, and incidentally, when I looked at Sophia, when I was first of all studying that sequence of the Proverbs 31, one of the families in the church where I'm helping in Merida named their child Sophia. I think they also knew very well that in the Greek language, Sophia means wisdom. So I looked at that and I says, "Oh my, Sophia, very much like being wise and being or studied." Okay, so and if you look at what happens with the sophists or with the sophistria in the Greek philosophy history, these were philosophers who based their philosophy and their thinking and their advice and everything simply on their own internal arguments. Sophistry is an argument that makes sense within itself, but when you set it outside and compare it to the rest of everything else, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. In other words, sophistry is arguments for arguments' sake, and so yeah, we see them sophos, okay, sophistry. Incidentally, that means that in Hebrew and in the Greek language, in some way, both languages derive this from an earlier language, be it Sanskrit or be it in some other language, but both roots work in both languages. Or the root works in both languages. The sophos, that's a Tsade Fe, works in Hebrew, works also over in the Greek. So I'm not going to get into a whole Greek thing, but it does illustrate a little bit as to what's happening here. In other words, the intense study of something to prove something you want to prove yourself. In other words, the Rasha is studying very closely, looking very closely, seeking very closely La Sadiq, to the righteous one. So it is here once again back to the structure of what happens when a righteous person faces an evil person. What is this evil person doing? What's he after? What's he doing? So we've seen evil people involved in violent things. This time around, it's things based on judgments. He's going to drag the poor righteous person off to a court and accuse him of something that's, as we kind of understand, entirely made up. Although this kind of accusation can lead to hamito, in other words, to his death. In other words, it could be a very serious accusation, which can have very serious consequences. So, yeah, what happens when evil beats good or tries to take on the good? So, chauffé, in other words, rasha, the evil one, singular here, evil person, considers intently, studies intently, la sadiq, to the righteous one, Oh, Mabakesh. Wow, and over here, when I first read this thing, wow, I couldn't figure it out because it looked like a resh. Okay, look, Mabakesh. It's a cough. The cough, the highlighter here should have highlighted this. The highlighter fixed this one pretty good. And this one was sort of okay. We can see the Sadiq here, but this vertical part of Kof wasn't very clear, so still isn't very clear. So some places we also see, the holum get somewhat absorbed. This one over here, this one's a revia got somewhat absorbed. So we're covered. Bakesh and seeks, seeking. This is a participle form. Looks like a PL because of the A. And then le hamitav, hamito, to kill, to bring, to cause to kill him, to cause to kill him. This is a hifel causative. Hifels are causative, and so when you have a lamed in front of a verbal form like this, we're working with a infinitive, and it's being an infinitive construct because of the tau. So in order to cause to kill him. Now we're going to see a whole lot of third person suffix pronouns. This one's here, and there's one over here, and there's one over here, one over here, and one over here. There's a lot of them. And the first time I went through the study, in fact, I'm retaping this one just because I let too much diversity get into who the references were to this pronoun here. But looking back at it here, Mevakesh le hamito, in order to cause the death of him, that the antecedent of this suffix pronoun is Sadiq. In other words, to cause his death. This death is the death of the just person. That's what the world tries to do. And I think one of the clearest examples of this was when Daniel began his work as an administrator under Darius. He became recognized quickly for his abilities, for his honesty, and for his abilities, talents that he had. And all of the other satraps and all the other princes said, "Oh boy, hey, this guy's a really strong competition. Let's find something on him." And the way they went about it was they went to King Darius and says, "Hey, King Darius, let's make a decree so that whoever's in your kingdom, the only person that person can pray to is you. You're the top guy in the whole kingdom." And so he didn't think it over very well, signed the decree, and then later on they were observing Daniel. Of course, Daniel didn't vary his activity at all, and prayed to Jehovah facing Jerusalem. Of course, then they were looking intently, went to the king and says, "Hey, Daniel's been disobeying your edict. You have to throw him to the lions." And of course, Darius was very shook up about it, didn't want to do it, but he was stuck in with all these other guys accusing. Okay, rules of the Medes and Persians. Those rules are super strong, and you're really not going to bend them. And so Darius was basically forced to put Daniel in the lion's den. Of course, we know the rest of the story. Jehovah stopped the mouths of those lions, and then later on, justice was brought on all the other guys who had brought these false accusations against Daniel, trying to entrap him. But of course, the Lord provided, and the Lord took care of him. So, and we see this over here. Okay, Jehovah. Okay, Jehovah, and a little dehi over in the front here. These are pre-positive accents, but they just work on the first syllable. Then Jehovah. Lo does not. Ya'az beinu. This is the famous Azav. Okay, Yod Ayin Zayin Bet. Okay, the Yod here is the third person prefixed form of this verb, prefix verb. And the root itself is ayin zayin bet, to abandon. Very well known root. We see it, and I mention this quite often. Almost every time I see the word Eli Eli lama azavachtani, why have you abandoned me? Okay, but the Lord does not abandon into His hand. Now, all of the references I've had to third-person suffix pronouns are to Sadiq. At this point, the hand that's causing trouble, the hand that's bringing false judgment and so forth, is the hand of the Rasha. Okay, so, and incidentally, the word hand means power of. So you see a person's hand, okay, that's to cause trouble, cause harm. So Beyado, it does not abandon him to his hand. In other words, the righteous person, the Sadiq, may have problems, suffer accusations the same way Daniel did, but it does not really come under the power of that person, under the power of the Rasha. You can live under the troubles of the Rasha, but at some point the Lord liberates, the Lord frees the Sadiq from the hand of the Rasha. So does not abandon him, does not abandon him to his hand. In other words, does not abandon the Sadiq to the hand of the Rasha. So Beyado. Lo and not. A little matek here to make sure that the lo is pronounced properly and separated from the rest of the sequence here. This is negation. It does not. Yeresheinu. Reshienu. And I put in here, does not deal wickedly with him. These two verbs here, ashabenu and yerasheinu, these two verbs are very much in parallel. And this verb here has an interesting root. It has the root of resh, shin, ayin. Guess what? That's the same as evil one over here. Okay, this one's so far in our study of the Psalm, we've seen this one a whole lot, singular and plural. This is, I think, the first time we're seeing it as a verb, but it can function as a verb. In other words, doing evil, making evil, causing evil, bringing evil. So, and again, it's also a third person prefix. Now, if you see Rashienu, you think, oh, well, that would have to be the Rasha. But it's a negation here. It does not, okay? In other words, this is not something that Rasha would do, but something that Jehovah does not do. In other words, Jehovah does not bring, so the reference here to this prefixed third person prefix verb here is Jehovah does not bring evil, does not condemn, does not bring unjust judgments on the Sadiq. So Yerusheinu be hasi fought in his judgment, when judgment is brought on him. So when the Sadiq receives judgment, the Lord does not treat him badly, does not treat him in an evil form. So yes, in this world, we will find ourselves in scenarios very similar to Daniel. Our neighbor has something, an evil person has it in for us in some way, shape, or form. Especially when we're trying to do something good, we have an intent we have a purpose to carry out something in helping somebody else or doing something to alleviate some sort of a problem in the world, and there will be people with vested interests, people who very much attached to certain worldly ideas, and then if you step on their toes, if you say, oh, this is not good that we are doing this or doing that, or whatever it is in science or in politics or in sociology and so forth, they are going to use sophistry against you and cause you a lot of trouble. And when you find yourself being attacked by the evil ones of this world, look to this passage and know that Jehovah does not abandon him, does not abandon us to the hand of the evil one. We have that confidence, we have that trust that Jehovah is most certainly always with the just person. Even when that just person is going through trouble, that just person can feel the presence of God and know that God is protecting him or her through whatever tough situation there is before us. So God bless and God strengthen you in this day.